started. All right, sounds good. So, in this presentation, we're going to talk about the Murideo Stix HDMI tester. So, we're going to talk about what it is, how does it work, why do you need one, and who is it for? So, I'd like to welcome everyone to this presentation. We've got Chris Kane and Lowell Wheeler of AV Pro and Murideo, and myself, Aaron. I'm with Blackwire Designs. We're a national distributor of audio, video, networking, Wi-Fi, security, etc. So our customers are professional installers, and that's really what this product is for. You could be a home theater enthusiast or something like that, but the purpose of this presentation is to highlight how this product would be used by professional installers. So, Chris, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, and I know we could maybe assume everyone knows who AV Pro is, but if you wouldn't mind just kind of introducing yourself and your company, and then give Lowell a chance to do the same.
Sure. Well, thanks, Aaron. Happy to be here, and thanks again for the team at Blackwire and Aaron for hosting this. AB Pro and Blackwire have been partners for a number of years, especially because I think the solutions approach that Blackwire takes to systems for dealers, where it's not just a matter of products, but figuring out how to best integrate those together. AB Pro is a solutions company, and we actually cut our teeth a dozen years ago building video test equipment, video generators, and that led us to the development of video HDMI extenders, matrix switchers, AV over IP products. Subsequently, we got involved in high performance audio when we acquired Audio Control, and most recently RTI. So we're a performance company, but above and beyond just the product component of it. And by the way, we design and manufacture the products at our factories, 10-year parts and labor warranty. But we build the equipment and we make the test equipment. So what we'll talk about today, and Stix especially, was we saw a need for a solution for applications that we were doing. And Stix turned out to be a good product that our engineers designed for internal use and then discovered the applications that would be available for dealers. But happy to share with that. Our lead guy, color commentary today, Lowell Wheeler, and Lowell's the vice president of sales specifically for the Murideo brand. So, Lowell, say hello.
Hello, and thank you, Chris, for the wonderful introduction. Used to do that to Jerry LeMay, and we just say, "Here's Jerry." Chris just really led in nicely there. We actually started out way back in the beginning with just test equipment, and that's how we started our company. Put our leg into the fire and produced some very high-tech equipment for a massive project, and that project turned into many more. We evolved and we started building some more easier to afford type equipment for the field use and test equipment and troubleshooting for technicians in the field. And then more recently, we produced a really nice, affordable, very powerful set of equipment called the Stix. So now I can bring a generator into the rack and I can plug that into the rack and I can go all the way down to the other side of the house or the company and I can plug it at the other end. And now I can analyze that signal from end to end, all the way up to 8K, all the way down to 720 with multiple formats, frequencies, just being able to verify that the system is up and running. And I have patterns that I can utilize to see that I have visual or I don't. So that's where we started, and that's where we've become with the new devices. And it seems like a very nice little tool. They're affordable again for many folks out there that are even just end users. But they were developed by technical people to test our product. And we got the idea that this is pretty small stuff. I can put this into a system worldwide and leave it in the system. So it makes things nice for the end users. It makes things nice for the technical people that are installing the systems as well.
Yeah, for sure. So the system is basically comprised of two pieces. There's actually two versions of each piece. We've got the male versions on the slide here. We have a female version as well, where you can plug in a cable directly. But you've got Yes, there's the other version. So they MSRP for around $500 for the pair. We'll talk about how our installing customers can get some of these package prices, demo deals, etc. But that just for kind of a level set, they're not super expensive. They're in the same kind of price range as, a good quality network tester. So these tools that dealers are used to having, network tester, voltmeter. These are things we've gotten used to needing. And for some people, a couple $1,000 tester was out of the price range they were willing to spend. So this is a super simple product. There's a button on the bottom that says function. You just press that button to toggle through the different settings. And then to power the device, you've got lots of options, which to me makes a ton of sense. So on the screen here, we've got a phone. That phone is not being used to control the Stix product. It's being used as a battery source. So we could use that. We could use a battery bank. We could use a wall wart with a USB-C cord. So just the ability to deploy these at an instant's notice is just super simple. Um, so when we think about the
Yeah,
Stix
simple, simple.
product, yep, there you go. Um, so when we think about the Stix products, I think about it through a couple different lenses. So one of them, we've got a lot of installers that are pre-building systems. So in the office, in the warehouse, in the rack room, whatever they want to call it, they're pre-validating some of these systems. I don't know, would one of you be able to, maybe tell a story or some good examples of like how dealers would be using these?
I think that the easiest example is in the rack with a matrix switch. And we actually had a good story last week where a customer was having some issues with the rack. They weren't sure if it was the rack or the TV or the extenders, or they were completely, they didn't know if it was the cable. So they were
Sure.
able to go in and plug in the front end of the system with the generator, and then they could come out the other end and they could verify that I've got signal all the way down at the other end, but I'm missing signal up here. So they were able to find out that something in the way that the source was coming through the switch wasn't set right. And it turned out to be an HDR setting. So the TV was supposed to be getting high dynamic range at the other end, but it wasn't getting a full amount of bandwidth. So they were able to verify that very easily that the source device wasn't putting out a full band of information at the end. So when they came back up to verify that, they made the switch, they made the setting change, they were able to go back down, boom, now they had it. Customers extremely happy. And that took them like 10 minutes, which could have taken all day in a lot of other
Yeah.
scenarios. So that's the power behind
Absolutely.
having just a pocket-sized version or even a full-fledged kit. Just to be able to pull that out, the customer is super impressed. I think the guy actually left it with the customer and they bought him. But, you know, end users like toys. We all know
Yeah.
that.
And the things I think I've seen, Aaron, is, the today's projects, let's face it, the internet sources run on the internet, processors run on the internet and stuff like that. Well, when you're doing a new construction, guess what? The first thing up and running is not necessarily the internet sometimes, or it's kind of spotty. So if an integrator is trying to get a system deployed and he wants to have a stable source, he can use a Stix as a source on an input on a processor or switch. It's a known test pattern or grayscale or whatever they want from there. And then they can switch to that input and use that to know that things along the pipeline are working as opposed to waiting for the internet or whatever the case may be. So I think it's good from that kind of resource. And then honestly, on larger systems, I've heard from dealers that are, given the low cost of a Stix source, you can keep that into install it in a project and maybe put it on an input like input number 8 or 9 or something you don't normally go to. And so if the client ever reaches out and he's just want to confirm if there's an issue, whether it's, the source or something going on with the display or whatever, because with HDMI, particularly EDID, the display calls the ball. So, understanding what's going on, and you can usually remotely access the system and switch over that source number 9 or that input number 9 or whatever they have hidden away, and then ask the client some troubleshooting things, from a remote standpoint. So there's a lot of applications where I think having a known source, I mean, a test tone generator of the past was a go-to, take attendance, make sure everything works, things are clicking, popping, making sound, all that. This is the Stix is definitely a modern test tone generator with a modern, voltmeter, shall we say, but at the higher level,
Mhm.
because HDMI is not just about signal, it's bandwidth, it's connectivity, it's 5 volts. It's all sorts of things that Stix will help you identify if that's passing through. So
Yeah, for sure. And when we're deploying these systems, pre-building a system in our office, we're not going to necessarily have the clients Apple TVs or satellite boxes or digital signage box if it's commercial. So we're able to emulate those. And like you were saying about streaming sources, it's like, well, that Apple TV is capable of sending a 4K signal. Um, but is that particular thing you've chose to stream in 4K? So we take all those kind of questions out of the equation when we can choose with our generator, are we going to send a 1080p signal, a 4K signal, an 8K signal, and validate that that system can handle all of those different signals so that when we do get to the site, if something's not working, like we already know what was working. So the client's display is maybe the issue because that's the only thing that's really changed from how we pre-built it to when we deployed it on the system. So I just think of it as like it's one of those investments that's going to really pay off in a short amount of time with efficiency, less stress for your installers on the job site. Having the right tools just makes their job so much easier. Um, so obviously, pre-building is part of the system, but then on site. So some of those same kinds of things, like, hey, we've got some infrastructure in place, we've got a video distribution in place, but the monitors aren't up. Maybe it's a sports bar and there's going to be 50 monitors, but they're not up yet. Like that doesn't have to slow us down if we've got, some of the Stix analyzers, one in the hand of each of our installers. They can go validate a huge system in a very short amount of time. Um, what other kinds of things would you guys highlight for like how it gets used on site or things you'd want, our customers to know about?
Well, I think you pointed out one, having no video monitors, that can be very problematic, especially
Yeah.
in previous occasions where you didn't have a way to put up any kind of signal. Well, now at least you have a way to put up signal or put a signal in, and at the other side, I can see that there's a signal coming in, and I know that that's a good signal. So I know if that output to that wall, to that wall, to that wall, everything is coming out proper. I can also then verify the chain. So you've got a lot of category runs around the building or the house. Well, it's nothing worse than having a bad terminated end. I can plug this into the transmitter, plug this into the receiver, and now I can verify that that run is working just fine. So there's no issues with the wall, the cabling, the extenders, nothing. Um, and then I can back it up. Divide and conquer is what we used to call that at Sencor, but basically come back up to the rack and just make sure that everything coming out of each source is what it's supposed to be. And by that time, hopefully the TVs are getting hung, power them up, plug them into the right inputs, verify that we have signal. Makes things a
Yeah,
lot
to be
yeah.
able to
quicker.
move. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying having it to Lowell's point, just having a known test source, I mean, otherwise, you're plugging cables in and out, you're hot swapping things, you're doing all sorts of
Yeah.
other things that could create more havoc than you know anyway. So having a known test pattern that you can plug in, that will drive that. I mean, in the olden days, we'd take a 9-volt battery and pop speakers, and that's because we
Yeah.
knew that 9-volt battery would work, right?
Yeah.
So the Stix gives the installer that definitely an extra tool in their toolbox to kind of help out when it comes to deploying and commissioning a system. And to Lowell's point, it's cool in the front of the clients. You know, you look when you pull that out, it's very impressive. I always remember, one of the first projects I went, a guy was hanging a projector and he cracks out a laser level, and he like puts it on top of the ladder. And you ever see one of those things? Zoom, the laser
Yep.
comes on around the room, and he's doing this thing with the projector, and the client walks in, he's drinking their coffee, like, wow, these guys know what they're doing. The gear did it. And I said, wow, you do that on all the projects? He goes, yeah, he goes, most times we kind of know what we're doing anyway, but this reaffirms it. And he goes, did you see the look on the eyes of the client when they saw that? I just, nobody else is doing that. So, and I think having sticks and that kind of instrumentation when you're working on a client's project really adds credibility to what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. And then troubleshooting, right? That's where the rubber can really meet the road. Like this system's been working for a year or two. Yourself or your installer gets sent to the site and they're supposed to figure out what's wrong, right? And the old like guess and check, like, well, hey, we get picture from this source, but not that source. Let me cross over the HDMI cable. Well, now do I get picture? Like you get yourself confused with what's what cable and you're unplugging things and moving them around. And it's just if you have the right test equipment, it can be so much faster. And then that bill to the client makes a lot more sense. Like you were very professional about how you solved that problem, right? And the idea, like the idea that like problems always happen at like 4 p.m. on a Friday. It's like if you're gonna have a video problem 4 p.m. on a Friday, like you want one of these in your test kit. So you need to get them in the hands of yourself or installers and understand how they work so that you're confident with them so that when that problem happens 4 p.m. on a Friday, you know how to use it and you know how to like quickly figure out what the issue is, build a client for that service call and move on. So yeah, I think it's a super powerful tool and just yeah, thankful that you guys are with us and made this and that we're hopefully getting guys aware of this product because I really think that almost every professional installer, if they're doing AV work, like they should have at least one pair of these, if not one pair for every, main AV installer, like for sure.
So I'm going to add on to that, Eric, because it reminds me of another small but simple story and very powerful. So we had a guy with a TV. We had a guy, they put in a new system. Well, the TV was older and they put in a brand new AVR. Well,
Mhm.
we talked about this, I think, last time, but unfortunately, the TV was older, so it was not running HDCP 2.2. The new AVR was and is pushing new signal, higher bandwidth. TV couldn't handle that. So they had to dumb down that AVRs to make the TV work. At the end of the day, he talked to the client, got the client to, give him a thumbs up on getting a brand new panel. So that turned into a sales opportunity. But people don't understand sometimes that incompatibility is a big issue with older and newer technologies going in and out constantly.
Yeah.
If you have a TV that goes out and you put up a new TV, it's looking for a signal and it's not getting what it needs. As Chris mentioned earlier, the TV dictates the chain. A lot of times, that chain is broken, and we have a way to fix that now, or verify what's going on before we start plucking and chucking stuff that could be fine and spend half a day doing that versus 10,
Yeah,
15 minutes.
for sure. Yeah, nice methodology. Very easy to get started with these. They're not complicated. So yeah, just really hope we see you guys get these in their hands because I think it's going to make a big difference for them, especially if they haven't had HDMI test equipment before.
Can make the difference between a whole day or 25 minutes of your day.
Yeah, for sure. And just to highlight, there's a couple other things that this does in terms of test patterns. Chris or Lowell, if you wouldn't mind just explaining quickly what a couple of those things are.
Yeah, so there's 13 different patterns in this little device here. So I have the way to verify color: red, green, blue, black, white. There's a checkered bar pattern in there as well. There's the color bar pattern as well to see if things are blooming or not. Colors don't look right. Um, but those are like very standard patterns that I can see issues pretty cleanly and pretty clearly if there is any issues. Um, sometimes TVs are driven too hard. Well, I can see that when I put up a pattern that this thing is like, wow, that's too much color.
Yeah,
Or that's too blue, or it's pink. Why is it pink? We see this stuff in my world all the time. Um, but this gives you the ability to see it and see it fairly quickly, and I can make changes because TVs have a lot in the menu, and sometimes it's just an easy thing, easy fix.
for sure. Um, so this last one, I wasn't really expecting it to see to be part of the spec, but I think it's super helpful, right? So the idea of intermittent problems that this could be put into a system that's experiencing some sort of issue, and we're going to monitor that system and look for errors over time, and it's going to keep track of those without me looking at the display. Like, put it into use, test the system, and then see if I get errors over the course of hours, days, etc. So that,
Could be anything from a HVAC system that was run improperly with wire coming across the top of it. That never happens. We don't get EMI issues. But that little monitor test is nice because it can monitor the signal and the source. And, all of a sudden at 3 o'clock on Saturday, I get 10 or 20 bit errors. Where'd that come from? Oh, the AC popped on at so such and such time. So that
yeah,
kind of directs me of where to go look at where it could be coming from. Um, versus spending hours hoping that I'm going to find a bad cable or something.
yeah, for sure. So, super useful tool. So again, just encourage guys to get their hands on these because I think they're going to really see the value. So if nothing else, buy one pair, test it out, validate it, and then get it in the hands of, more of your installers so you can just be that much more efficient. Um, so I've mentioned this a couple of times. I think it's super cost effective, around $500 retail. But yeah, reach out to Blackwire. We've got a couple different promotions that we're running to help make it so that you can either get a free set of these or discounted pricing based on projects. And make sure you've got these as part of those future installs. So yeah, with that, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Lowell. If there's anything else you'd like to add, please feel free. Otherwise, yeah, reach out to us at Blackwire Designs, and we'll definitely get you as many of these as you'd like.
Great. Well, thanks for hosting us, Aaron. Needless to say, there's a lot of information on the abpro.com website also on this. But look forward to seeing you guys out in the field.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Lowell.
Thank you, Aaron, very much. Appreciate it.